Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. Well, I get to trash a group that I absolutely and positively can't stand. And it's one that is just like a whole group of, hundreds of these think tanks and these experts that know what's best for you, that tell you how to live your life, that control every facet of the world by providing valuable insight and expertise to our non-representing representatives and our big businesses. And of course, I'm talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center, a total and complete D-bag organization that gets very creative to label hate groups, according to Bloomberg. And it's, I didn't quite think that the mainstream media would be capable of writing an article like this, but Megan McArdle of Bloomberg really did a fantastic job of breaking this down and showing how the Southern Poverty Law Center says, instead of doing research and saying, okay, well, first, let's define what a hate group is. They have no definition of what a hate group is. It's just whoever they deem they want to call a hate group. Secondly, they come up with a list, right? And they'll say, okay, American Legion. Yes, the American Legion is a hate group, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. American Legion, you group that likes to hang out and have, cheap drinks and turkey shoots in November. Maybe it's because they shoot turkeys. I don't know. You guys are hate groups. What they do is they label them a hate group and then they back into the reasoning. So it's not, we're doing research and we've come to the conclusion that these guys are a hate group based on the set criteria and definition that we've laid out. No. It is, you're a hate group. Now let's dig to justify why we just called them a hate group. That's how they operate. Listen to this. In 2010, the SPLC designated the Family Research Council a hate group because of its orthodox position on homosexuality and its occasionally incendiary defense of that position. In 2012, Floyd Corkins showed up at the Family Research Council headquarters with a gun. I don't mean to imply that these two things were connected. I'm telling you that they were connected. We know because the shooter told the FBI where he got the idea. Now, conservatives have used this way to try to discredit the SPLC's list of hate groups, but the sad truth is that if you criticize someone, there's always a small chance that an unstable person will read your criticism and decide its subject needs killing. Those shootings, the shooting is still not the fault of the writer, but the fault of the shooter, right? Because the writer didn't pull the trigger, the shooter pulled the trigger. And you don't need to manufacture AirSat's accountability in order to discredit the SPLC's hate group tally. You just need to tell people what's on the list. Now, some of the groups named are what anybody would think would be a hate group, like, the Ku Klux Klan. But other entities are a festival of guilt by association innuendos about people with at best a tangible relationship to the target institution, and whose statements fall well short of blanket group calumny or a call to violence. Or the center offers bizarrely shifting rationales that suggest that the staff started with the target they wanted to deem hateful and work backwards towards the analysis. Remember, just like that. You find, you come up with a list that says, okay, these are our hate groups. Now, I want you to dig, and I want you to find out why. I want you to give me proof so that we can say this guy's a hate group, this is a hate group, and by God, this is why. Now, she writes, I spent a day diving down the rabbit hole of one of these listings of the hate groups for the Ruth Institute, a small nonprofit think tank that thinks that, a small nonprofit that thinks the sexual revolution was a giant mistake. The Ruth Institute the Ruth Institute, my friends, is certainly not a hate group, but listen to this. They do seem to have a couple of marginally attached figures who at some point theorized an unsupported connection between homosexuality and pedophilia. But however wrong-headed and insulting this may be by itself, it hardly merits branding the whole organization a hate group. And a lot of other evidence for the designation is simply, well, fully deserving of those contemptuous quotation marks. So listen to this. This is how the center justified dubbing the Ruth Institute a hate group. This is amazing. One link presents the Ruth Institute president, Jennifer Morse, as having offered the race-baiting comment that President Obama was more gay than he is black. An assertion that turns out to be an out-of-context quotation of an obvious verbal slip during a radio interview. Now, that link also asserts that the Ruth Institute reprinted a column blasting the LGBT movement's mythology of grievance and sexual oppression. In fact, the column is on the broader topic of the sexual revolution, not just LGBT activism, and the mythology refers to the true fact that many of the legal landmark cases that paved the revolution's legal path, including Roe versus Wade and Lawrence versus Texas, were not entirely what they seemed. Now, the same source also claims that the Ruth Institute even reprinted a column which attempted to link the Lawrence decision to the Penn State child sex abuse scandal, referring to a column about legal trends in which Lawrence is mentioned only in passing as an example of the weakening of community moral standards as a basis for law. Now, whether or not you think it was a good idea, this weakening has indisputably occurred, and Lawrence's case was a landmark exhibit. And finally, the SPLC also criticizes Morse, who, by the way, is a Catholic, for calling homosexuality intrinsically disordered, which I grant does sound gratuitously insulting to non-Catholics, but this is, in fact, a technical term in Catholic theology, which also covers things heterosexuals frequently get up to. Now, disagree with it and Catholic sexual teaching as you will, but it's not in itself evidence of special animus towards homosexuals. It's really not. It's part of that religious teaching. It's part of catechism in Catholic school, and in the whole Catholic faith. So if misspeaking in radio interviews and quoting the Vatican and promoting articles like these on your nonprofit blog are what now earn a spot along the Klan and the list of hate groups, then maybe it's time for the SPLC to close up shop because their work is largely done. But just like other think tanks, that think tank, this group, this bunch of con men and women are entrenched now and relied upon to give this garbage to the titans of industry, big business, members of government, academia, who all reference these people as subject matter experts on things they are not expert at all. The only expert thing they're expert in is bullshit. That's truly what it is. The SPLC has $69 million parked in offshore accounts, over $300 million in the bank. And what do? They have a hate list. That's what they do. Now, hate group is, of course, not a scientific term with a precise definition, which, again, is a problem. The SPLC's entries do not highlight a lot of language about various groups that may not strike me as the equivalent of Klan rhetoric, but does make me uncomfortable. And who am I to say that discomfort is a better characterization than hate speech? In criticizing them, am I not committing the same sin of which I accuse the SPLC, trying to leverage my platform to curtail speech I don't like through unofficial censure? Well, yeah. She writes, the SPLC has a perfect right to decide what they mean by hate group. They most certainly do. But unfortunately, it also has an incentive to apply this term broadly. When people see that the SPLC lists over 900 hate groups, think about that. 900. A lot of people panic. A lot of people are like, whoa, wow, we got a problem in this country. We got a hate problem. Not a hate problem. Problem is, here in America, people have become a bunch of wussies. Used to be, the old saying is, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names would never hurt me. Right? Today, if you get called a name, whoa, you go to work, people, you got to walk on eggshells everywhere you go. God forbid you say something wrong. Watch what you say. Watch what you do. When I grew up, we all had Blanche Knott's Truly Tasteless jokes that basically had every racial joke you could possibly... And it didn't matter if you were black, you were Hispanic, you're white, you're a Jew. It didn't matter what you were. Everybody had Blanche Knott's Truly Tasteless jokes, and it was funny. And it didn't matter what you were, because you know why? People knew it was a joke. We really need to get our bearings straight in this country, and we cannot be taken by these purveyors of social snake oil. And that's exactly what the SPLC is. It is probably one of the biggest purveyors of social snake oil the world has ever seen. I'm Joe Joseph. This was the DailySheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Have a great day.